over 4,000 Germans booked in for Europe this summer.
You come and take us out with your top firm, then you can take us on tour.
You won't know what's it, chap. All right. We'll see who's got the top firm. You, farmer, you'll get yours when we land on your plot Saturday. And you?
Yeah.
Yeti, I'm going to put 150 stitches in your face.
I'm shitting myself, aren't I?
Yeah, you look it.
See that door? Use it.
Now, the firm, Eddie, Nick Love, could you call it a remake or was it its own film, would you say?
Well, I thought it was its own film because,
yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing about the firm, and I've said this a lot of times to people as well, that I remember talking to Nick Love about the character and all that, and he said, what we want to do really is sort of turn it upside down and get some sort of social comment out of it, really, because we wanted to let people know, really, that the people that get involved in that football stuff and all that don't all come from sort of dysfunctional families, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly, yeah.
And his family was a loving family sort of thing. And it was only when he met Paul's character that it all went sort of Pete Tong for him, you know?
Come on. There is only one trainer.
Here, Bex, is it true you had it with a service crew, 40-handed? They reckon you stood and had it with them, then made one with the old Bill as well. I was going to go to that game. The old man wouldn't let me out. Some old bollocks about knowing you lot were going firm-handed and there was going to be ag.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, Eddie, what was really interesting is that you were obviously Dom's dad. You wasn't part of the firm, but you still were quite a an influential character within the film. And you could see what was going wrong for your son, but you didn't like Bex when you first met him. I thought that was really sort of important, like you said, to feel like these characters, when they go and kick off in football, they do go home and they do have normal lives. They're not gangsters, you know. They're not
at all. I mean, all they are really. Sort of, I grew up with Millwall, you know, and I knew all the people that went to Millwall, and what it was really, it was just like working class people just trying to let off a bit of steam somewhere, really, because they can't work all week. You know, I mean, the firm, it was different because they were all working in the city and all that, and estate agents and things like that. But the majority of people that go to football and do that from these working class environments, they're all sort of on building sites and working hard all week sort of thing. And then Saturday comes along and it's time to let off a bit of steam sort of thing, Matty, you know?
Yeah, it's that, And I obviously there's been a lot of podcasts, a lot of interviews that, you know, why do people do what they do at football? And the reason why I do this channel, Eddie, is to get it over. It's a lot more than just violence. There's a lot more to it, you know. And obviously, said you're a Millwall lad or Millwall supporter. And Millwall get nothing but bad press. They're this, that, and the other.
Now they do. But when I was going to Millwall, you know, like in 1969, you know, 1970 sort of thing, it wasn't really as bad as what happened in the 70s sort of thing when West Ham and Millwall sort of, there's a story behind West Ham and Millwall, you know, there's an actual story of why it all kicked off between West Ham and Millwall, and it was all down to a fella who got killed, who got thrown off a train, you know. But like, I don't want to go too much into it.
No, of course, no, I wouldn't want you to.
it wasn't about football, really. It was just about a liberty that got taken.
Yeah.
And that's why West Ham and Millwall sort of had their little problems, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
it wasn't about football.
No, it was about something that happened. And obviously these football firms, they took on names and they had calling cards and all the rest of it. And I suppose what I would like to ask you, Eddie, is that do you think football fans get demonised by the press?
Well, I mean, look, who don't get demonised by the press?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Who don't? You know, they are demons. You know what I mean? The press are demons. There ain't no two ways about it, really.
Yeah.
They're, you know, I mean, if... It's like, for instance, when Millwall played Luton and they went into Luton and they just smashed Luton up. They absolutely smashed Luton up, you know?
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, there was a right naughty game.
A really naughty, yeah.
You know, so are you being demonised if you do things like that sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, you bring it on yourself. Yeah.
Do what, mate?
You bring it on yourself, don't you, if you're going to go around?
You know, I don't know, really. I don't know how you explain that phenomenon of football aggression, you know? I mean, it was just... I stopped going to football because of it, to tell you the truth.
Really?
You know, back in the 70s, I was only a kid, like, I don't know, 14... And to go to them matches and see that sort of violence was, especially for parents, almost like Dom's parents, you know, to say, look, you ain't going there no more because it's too dangerous sort of thing. And when you've got them little, people don't really realise. I mean, the difference between Nick Love's The Firm and Alan Clark's The Firm, the original one in the 80s, you know, in the one in the 80s where they've just got chinos and like moccasins, like 3 or 4 handed. In Nick's one, you know, you've got 300-400 of them running at you.
More realistic,
terrifying. You know what I mean? It's absolute. That little scene where they do it in the city when they filmed it in the city when they was. Millwall and West Ham were facing up with each other. Yeah. That's what it was more like that than it was in the Alan Clark's one, the original one, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, who would you run from? That little firm in Alan Clark's movie or the little firm in Nick Love's movie? I know who I'd run away from.
Yeah, I know straight away who I'd run away from as well, Eddie.
You know, like the Millwall supporter, the Millwall one in the original one, up in, you know, Phil Davies pulling up in a convertible Volkswagen, like in a Burberry trench or whatever trench Mac. I mean, nah, you know, you can't have that, really, can you?
No, I think.
Or Paul Anderson running at you with a big, you know, and that little firm here. So I thought, because Nick, I think, was involved in all that anyway.
Yeah,
I think Nick was a part of all that anyway, so he knew what to do, you know. And he's a great director, Nick. He's very precise in what he does, you know. He won't let nothing go. Because I remember when we was doing The Business,
Yeah.
I had an old BMW, a convertible BMW, like a 3 Series, really beautiful little motor it was.
Right.
And I was looking for a motor, a BMW, to shoot in the film. I said, look, I've got one. He went, no, the indicator lights are wrong for that era.
That little issue. Yeah.
The indicators.
Yeah.
And there was another scene in the film where I'm sitting on a scaffold. Me and Callum are sitting next to each other, and he's asking me for money to go out.
That's right, yeah.
And what we had, it's not in the scene now, we both had cans of lager, can of beer each, and we were drinking them. And all of a sudden, Nick went absolutely bonkers. And we went, what's the matter? He went, the rim ain't the right rim.
Right.
On the beer can.
Attention to detail.
Well, that's how you make movies, mate.
Yeah.
That's how you make believable movies, you know?
I suppose.
And it's like a business. I think the reason that they sort of cast us in the business, because we actually grew up around the real people that they were sort of portraying, you know what I mean, mate?
Yeah, I understand completely, yeah. Yeah.
So you've got to get away with it then, haven't you? You know, you can't foul. Really?
No, you've got to do it justice.
It ain't like EastEnders where you've got a middle class geezer trying to talk like us. You know what I mean? Oh, like Mary Poppins, it's like Mary Poppins sometimes, isn't it?
Dick Van Dyke's Cockney accent or something. Yeah,
yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.